during COVID numbers.
And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people.
I can really hear
anything about that. When he was president, we still found ourselves in a position.
I hear really well.
You had a luxury.
I'm an excellent
This
listener.
safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You want to respond? Well, I'm going to ask you to follow up. You can do Trump's event that we give you.
Well,
I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How are you ensure that that doesn't drive prices up?
Not going to drive them high. It's just like those countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out, he did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only were we there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president for our period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. Now, what I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care,
making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make
I will say
every
I
single
like
solitary
this style
person,
better than the yelling and the screaming and the interrupting.
With COVID, excuse me, with,
Surprised he's not making faces.
That's his third gap.
if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Trump.
Was right, he did beat Medicare, beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare, they're putting them on Social Security, they're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and return the issue of abortion to the states. However,
I heard it.
the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with the decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you were asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is
3 different kinds of people in this world.
Take the life of a
Those
child
that can
in
count
the 8th month
and those that
9th
can't.
month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside.
That's a joke, by the way.
We'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happens
Unfortunate.
back to the states,
What?
and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President
And it's
Biden?
gained a lot of respect for you, Paul.
The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars support Roe. when
He's
we
got a
decide
cold or something.
Support Roe.
Don't blame. Yeah, that's not him.
That's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is a guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're at a state where in 6 weeks, you know, pregnant, but you cannot see a doctor, have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and we went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, and talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of incest rape. Is that true?
It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state line.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's.
But then we would have filled the sheets.
Everybody wanted.
It'd have been over under of 100.
If they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have done. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that, this is a state topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making
Joe, hold them together, buddy.
is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician is making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia,
Doctors know
put the
everything. That's
baby
why
down,
Flynn
they
Mike was such a
decide
good
what to do
idea.
with it. So he's
How about this?
willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Under
Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years.
Six tuning.
It was taken away because this guy, with very conservative members of the Supreme Court, takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board, at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn on to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, but made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they can come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure that the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened, I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. It's better than he left office. And I'm going to continue until we get the total ban on the total initiative.
Come on, Joe, hold it together, buddy.
No, if we were doing shots every time we messed up like that.
We're not doing shots every time we get.
Oh, yeah, we
have
are.
a cigar bet going on right now.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, yeah, we are. In the history of our country. country. All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation, because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who was great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming out in
President Trump. President Biden.
The only terrorists
Border Patrol, Texas, Arizona.
His administration killed Al-Qaeda. Terrorists are coming over the border. Killed three.
Try to improve it.
That's the only terrorists that's there.
Well, how do they know that they're terrorists?
Well, what they're doing is they're doing a study of people across, and they're cross-checking after the fact.
Well, how do
They're
they know
showing
who they
up on
are?
lists.
They're videoing them, but they're not stopping them.
Staying on the topic of immigration, you said you're going to carry out quote, the largest domestic deportation.
Yeah, Richard
Well, they're doing
Cranium.
Does that mean that
they're doing the
undocumented
TSA thing with photographing
in
them
America,
later on.
those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades, and if so,
I was gonna say Mossad, but you know, you
The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad border, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral.
What's the score, Isaac?
12 years old.
8 to 7.
What's taking place? What's taking place in our country? We're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast, because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are in the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care about the military at all.
Yeah,
And
they've
he
just
doesn't
been
care
taken
about
over by the
veterans.
state
Nobody
saying,
can
oh, we're
worse.
springing in
I had the
migrants.
highest approval rating for veterans
And they're
taking
not
care
getting
of the
paid.
VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I agree with, choice, that I got through Congress.
At the
all
time
the
when it
different
actually was
things I
happening,
approved. They abandoned.
I don't know.
By far the highest, and now it's
Fox,
down in less than
CNN,
half.
MSNBC,
Because he's done all these great things that we did.
You know how it is.
And I think he did it just because I
I'm an
approved
old
it,
reporter.
which
I got
is
so many
great.
different sources.
But he's
It's hard to
killed
keep
so
track.
many people in our border by now. All of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day.
President Biden, you have a mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are held hostage since they got past the backpack. One reason that they have, and she
Well,
was
my
with
friend
families
Sophie
have-
was there.
Those
She
families
said,
have
yeah,
because of what happened.
it's happening.
Whether it was Agent Orange or Burgess, they're all being covered now. And they
I'm
oppose
only referring to the hotels and being
We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq. Maybe one of the next ones. He's come back to states where we almost I was recently in
Point being is,
D-Day.
I blame Obama.
I went to the World War II cemetery.
The Saudis?
World War I cemetery. He was staying with his four-star general. And he told me, "Son, I don't want to go in there because a bunch of
You went on that road.
suckers." My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the
yeah, good.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up. And he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. Do I think that I would, in front of generals and others, say, suckers and losers? We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said,
You know what he looks like? You know when you're just high and you're barely holding on trying to figure out a conversation?
It wasn't Russia
That's what he looks
disinformation.
like.
He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
See, I was going off personal experience. Like, that look on my face, like, I am dull. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are their family. The only separate obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families.
Yeah,
and put
that's
them
gonna
in
do
a
it
good
with
role.
the VA.
That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now.
Yeah, it's all Biden's
More
fault.
for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
The top of the foreign policy, I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief,
Who's he
that's what you
looking
call
at?
him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, we have a real president, the president that was respected by Putin.
I was trying to get Crowder
Never
to see Crowder
invaded
out.
Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right
He's
now,
a-
much more than people
another
know.
talk
You know, they
show
talk about
He did
numbers, you
the
can
live
double those
videos,
numbers, maybe
like,
triple
debates,
those numbers.
and they are
He
firm
did nothing
believers
to
in
stop.
St.
In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you have no terror at all during my administration.
Oh,
This
but
place
I was
was
off my
organized
$12
by our
cents of my
country.
taxes, so better send the feds.
President Biden?
You heard so much more about the situation with Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it.
He's over.
He was president. Every time he said they're just having headaches. That's all it is.
Was he supposed to mention Iran yet?
When they
He's supposed to be on
attacked
Afghanistan.
Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that era. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want.
What is he looking at?
He said we're going to take
He's looking at his handler. The monitor is directly in front of him. He's looking at his handler right now.
I don't know. He's looking to the right, and he's looking straight. I don't understand.
Trump is looking at the moderators. Biden's looking at his moderators.
looking at the camera.
Yeah.
President Trump,
Trump's looking at the camera, Biden's looking at the monitor.
Which is
Whoever's in his ear needs to fix that.
terms acceptable to you.
Sorry to
People
watch.
territory of Ukraine.
They said that wasn't allowed.
But look, this
What,
is
look at the
we should have started.
No, if they had an earpiece or.
Oh, just kidding.
Everybody along.
No.
He's giving $200 billion
earpiece.
now or
They
more
can have those.
to Ukraine. He's giving $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
You know,
You have a minute.
the fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? You think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do. Because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine for weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through the G7 to the Israelis.
Dang it, he's on the over. Man, I was way off.
The plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is we treat the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones saying that. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one in Israel was accidentally killed and stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so those are 2 different things. Hamas cannot allow it to continue. We continue to send our intelligence and our intelligence to how they can get Hamas like we did Bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Let's get back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money that was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants months ago. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. He would stay in NATO, and he would pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. There may be a big ocean. If we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe, what happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead, let Putin go in and control Ukraine, and then move on to Poland and other places. What happens then? He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So the kill some trade, I made great trade deals with the European nations. Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, the nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's start with the issue of democracy. Former President, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership
Not answering the
is
question.
horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point we'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80
Isn't that great?
seconds
So
left.
he was literally asked in the
What you
equivalent
say
of
to those
literary
voters
terms,
who believe
have you
you
stopped beating your wife
violated
yet?
your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021?
Yeah.
And worry that
He avoided the question.
Well,
He
I
said,
didn't
move.
say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who is a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying,
Oh, yeah.
no, it's
Checking
my
his earpiece.
responsibility, I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard. Or
Doesn't
whatever.
this count as
And I
Alzheimer's?
offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down.
When you
And
just
it was
start talking
the
about
same
what you
day
want?
she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She
Now,
said, I
Biden
take full
started talking on the
responsibility
wall
for
about all
January
this kind of
6th.
Give him a mark there, buddy.
Thank you.
He encouraged those folks to go up in the Capitol, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patriots.
I agree with
of
Bob.
America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. You know, they've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that, you know, he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says that he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it will be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that they left immediately.
That they
What
want to
he
keep
said
cops out
about
of.
this whole subject is so
Oregon and stuff like that.
peacefully been directed. One other thing,
The Black Lives Matter.
the Unselect Committee, which is basically two powerful.
What was that?
Yeah, when they took over the police station in Washington.
And Democrats, all the.
I thought it was-
I missed that.
I thought it was Oregon.
And deleted
Yeah, there was-
all the
yeah,
information
yeah.
they got
State of
because they
Seattle.
found out we were right.
Really?
We were
Totally
right.
missed it.
And they deleted and destroyed all
You're not
of these.
missing it.
So they were
They should
armed
go to
and
jail
they-
for
Oh,
that.
yeah.
The Republican did that.
Yeah.
They
Shot
got
at
it.
the police.
President Trump.
No, they took over the police station. Kicked
The
them
only
all
person
out.
on the stage is a convicted felon, is what I'm looking at right
Wait,
now.
what?
And the fact of the matter is, he is.
Well, until they start killing
what he's
people,
telling
then
is
it's
simply
something.
not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part.
People
to
inside
stop what's
the
going on
free zone.
on Capitol Hill. And all those people, everyone.
The whole summer of love thing, you don't remember any of that?
The idea that they did kill somebody just when they broke down doors.
No, he's talking about whenever all of those businesses got.
Turning over statues. The idea that those people
Come
are
on.
patriots.
No, I'm telling you, I
Remember,
missed it.
when I asked him those first two
To be on them, right? Riots, you don't remember those?
I said,
Like 2018, 2019?
He said, no, I'll tell him to stand
Are
by.
you for real?
The idea he's
They
refusing-
tore down all those cities and they burned all those cities
$10
down.
billion in
That's what
business.
we're talking about now.
Man, you're full of crap.
I heard about some riot in Atlanta.
You're so full.
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the select committee on January 6th.
I feel like the moderator's doing a
Your
great
main
job.
political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to
How
be
do you drink?
successful to make this country successful.
How do you drink coffee and stuff happens?
My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably
I win.
several times. He should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse in the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion, you can change the prosecutor, otherwise you're not getting $1 billion. If I had said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the same.
Talking
This
like
man
you're
is a
drinking
criminal.
now, so.
This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir.
These guys definitely do not like each other. That is crystal
The
clear.
idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply wrong. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. no president in our history has spoken like that.
Edward Snowden,
Number three,
anybody else?
crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you know in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? Well, what are you talking about? You're reading the rules of an alley cat.
This were a court of law, they would
I
say.
didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed.
That's true.
We had a very
Walking the
terrible
tight lines,
judge,
I think
a
he's still under a
horrible
gag
judge,
order.
Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people.
That's not
and
true.
Both the civil
One.
and the criminal.
That's it.
He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found
Maybe.
out about these
So
cases,
here's the
because they
question.
understand
Once
better
you
than he
catch
does, he has
them
no idea
alive,
what these cases are.
how do you think
When they
anything else
found
that
out
comes
about
out
these
of
cases, you know
you
what they did?
You can't say that sentence about either one of these men.
Because you're reporting it.
What did I
And
just
we
say?
took in more
Once
money
you
in the
catch
last
them
2
lying,
weeks than we've ever
why would
taken
you
in
believe
the
anything
history
else that comes out
of
of
any
your mouth?
campaign. I don't think any campaign
don't have a
has
choice.
ever taken hundreds
You gotta
of
pick
millions
one or
of
the
dollars
other.
to
You gotta pick one or the other.
That's a choice.
You gotta choose which lies are worth believing.
Oh, so you gotta pick the best liar.
No, definitely not.
Oh.
That's a hand-down win.
Determined to destroy America.
So your favorite liar is
Do you believe that the tens of millions of
Who has the biggest-
Americans likely
who has
to
the-
vote for President
whose
Trump
liar-
will be
whose
voting
liar is more
against
important?
American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done,
It's
yes.
almost like he's a
The more they
defensive
know about
liar.
what he's done.
And he's, you know what I mean, an offensive liar.
Coming out. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the jury will do. I do know that's a real problem. And so the fact that, can you ever think you heard the president say that I'm going to seek retribution? You ever hear the president say that I thought he'd write some good ideas? What got me involved around the first place after my son died is decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when we were back in Germany. And a young woman got killed. I spoke to the woman, and they asked him,
I
they
don't like
said,
his voice.
what do you think of those people?
It's hard.
The people who were the ones who got
It's
killed,
clear as
the one
throat,
who tried to
so.
stop him, and the one they said, I think they're fighting people on both sides. What American president?
Adderall will do that to you.
Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches,
How mean he looks, a man.
Well, he looks pissed off.
carrying swastikas for fine people. This is a guy who says Hitler's done some
He's
good
got
things.
neutral
You
things.
have to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story's been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance, and he's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question,
He is the master of
worst
that house.
president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor has debunked,
All right,
every reasonable
looking at
anchor
you.
has
Charlottesville,
debunked
it
it.
happened.
And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked.
Yeah,
It's
who knows?
a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't
You
run because of
are
Charlottesville. He used
weird.
that as an excuse to run.
And debunked it happened. All you have to do is listen
Hey, you
to
know
what was
what?
said at the
I
time.
remember back in
And the
'89
idea
when they
that
got on TV and
somehow
said
that's only
that was a special effect. It didn't happen.
This guy could get elected. If he thought there were good people coming out of
Yes,
that
I'm sure
that
you know,
forge,
we know that.
carrying those in the woods, carrying those torches, and he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president
You
at
are
all.
changed my
And the
mind.
idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw it with our own eyes. We saw it happen on January 6th. We saw the people breaking out windows. We saw people occupying our
They're not actually discussing anything about the future. They're just throwing insults back and forth.
It's hard to refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why?
Oh, yeah.
Why? They know him well. They serve him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
I feel like they've both done well so far.
Listen, the names have been changed to
For the record,
protect the
though,
innocent.
that whole Charlottesville thing has been debunked. That's not accurate.
So it didn't happen?
The very fine people,
Can you turn that?
the very fine people, as a pullout. If you watch the whole clip, he said there's very fine people on both sides, and both are being affected by these people, and I don't support white supremacy. That was the whole clip.
That was the whole clip.
Yeah.
And what was Charlottesville?
I say it's heritage, not hate.
So what was Charlottesville?
That was that whole scenario they were just talking.
But I thought he said that
Man,
about.
Trump's already at 16 insults and Biden's already at 11 gaffes. I already lost, dude. He keeps.
He said there's no way we could. It was three things. He named it, and the third thing was we stop the war. And he said, well, no, we're not going to stop the war. The third thing is if they stop the war, we just start dying laughing.
I was wondering what you guys were laughing
He's
at.
just so confused.
I don't know, dude. He looks pissed off.
Yeah, I told him now we got to take a bet on this. He's going to swear in that because I think Biden.
Oh, he already said.
I missed it.
He already said hell.
He said poop.
He said hell.
Did he say hell?
He did.
We're laughing.
He said he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
As soon as he
Well,
talked
if
about
it's
his
in the
son, did you
Bible-
see his little
He got it.
dude? And Biden's eyebrows are a lot smaller than they were before.
Wait,
Like
so-
whoever like they cut off too much on the sides. He looks pissed off, and he keeps looking away at somebody. He needs to like look at the camera,
I know he's looking like over here, and the camera's right there.
and he needs to clear his throat or something. Like, what's wrong with his voice?
Not looking at the camera.
He sounds like he's got a cold, but Trump needs to freaking cool his jets, bro.
We thought he'd be more excited, like more.
I feel like the CNN moderators have done super good.
Yeah, because even when they didn't ask the question, they went back and they asked it.
Yeah. And they made Trump answer the question on the January 6th thing, and Trump didn't answer the question on January 6th, so he avoided it.
He didn't.
He totally avoided it,
100%.
and he should have if he felt convicted.
Yeah, CNN basically. They call it. It's like a little brain fart when Biden's like. It's like you're asleep for like what 10, 15 seconds or something.
Man, that man's got dementia. We all know it.
Wait a minute. How old is Biden?
He's 81.
106.
He's 81.
But he'll be 82 if he wins the election. By the time he starts the term,
How old is Trump?
78.
Are you friggin' kidding me?
yeah.
We're talking 2 years, one in Alzheimer's and one almost in Alzheimer's.
That's what we got to choose from, bro. I think.
We were just discussing that choice.
I say we go with the one that's in Alzheimer's because he's used to his meds already.
Listen,
What's past
the man pooped his pants in front of the Pope. That's a problem.
Not necessarily. I'd be, in awe of the Pope myself.
That you
Do
poop
bear
yourself.
shit in the woods? Yeah.
How many people you seen poop themselves in front of another person?
Sometimes when I saw Jessica Alba, I peed a little bit.
yourself. You
I
peed a little
bit.
The man pooped. That's the problem. Make sure he's got his brown pants. That's all
How
I'm
do we know
saying.
this? Who announced that the man pooped his pants?
Are you kidding me?
Yes, I'm kidding you. No, I don't know. Why would I kid you?
Because you're a political human being.
How do you know that the man pooped his pants? I don't think I'd be telling you. And anybody in my circle that did wouldn't be.
Georgia. Let's talk about persistent
Let's see what
challenges
Google
you both
says.
faced
You
in
gotta
your
go
first
for
terms,
that.
and you'll certainly face again in a second term.
Any star.
President Biden, while black unemployment dropped
If
to
you
a
think your
record
job is
low under
pointless,
his
just
presidency,
remember,
black
there's
families
somebody that
still
puts
earn far
turn
less
signals on
than
BMWs.
white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small black businesses that have been started in any time in history. Number
That's
two,
how we get.
the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's
Yes,
been.
what about the incarceration rates?
Number
The
three,
disparity between black and white.
trying to provide housing.
He's talking about black businesses.
And getting the
No, it's because the cops are bad and they just pick on blacks.
To keep the people out of their houses.
Boy, you gotta watch another channel.
The impact on
It's entertaining right here.
Oh, I guess you
the
got
black
very
families
first.
have to make relative to child care.
Right, when they had the FBI probe and found
We
they
did
were
the first
corrupt, and
legislative
said,
legislation
yeah, we
passed.
know.
I was able to
Yeah.
reduce.
See, I was thinking of Waco.
Yeah, we know was always there.
I was thinking Waco, Texas. Yeah, we know it's been a we're supposed to do that, but we know what.
For child care
Whatever. We're running the whole city off the
provide
back.
that child care protections and
Yeah.
increases economic growth.
Yeah, we know.
I could bring up gerrymandering in
Guess we all
Chicago.
know how to do that.
There's more to be done, continues to be done.
What if you, Dad?
We've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting
So
anything
you
go.
just cut child
You
care
have
costs.
49 seconds left.
50%.
What do you say to
I
black
don't know about that.
voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't think we can be disappointed. Inflation is still hurting the badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first time
Oh, yeah, yeah.
should get a $10,000 tax credit
Not
to be
right.
able to buy their first home, so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families
Their
and
first
black
home at
individuals
8%.
provided to have to take out student loans that were ballooned, that if they were kids in nursing, doctor,
Come on, Joe. Keep it running. You got it, buddy.
Just raise them one thing. What Black Rock is doing by buying up all the single-family homes.
And we're gonna do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you,
What
President
channel
Trump.
do you watch
And he
again?
caused the inflation. He's blaming
Alex
inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic
Wait,
families,
is he
and
not
just
married?
about everybody. It's killing people. They
That's the only one that
can't
came to
buy
mind.
groceries anymore. They can't.
You
You
need to
look
watch
at the
more
cost
Al
of food, where it's
Sharpton
double.
TV.
Oh, he is
Quadruple.
unlistenable.
They can't
Are you
live.
kidding
They're
me?
not living anymore. He caused this inflation.
Oh.
I gave him
Did you actually
a
watch
country
it?
with no,
It's
essentially no
impossible.
inflation.
You can't
It was
read a
perfect.
teleprompter
It was so
to
good.
save
All you had to do was leave
He's
it.
got
He destroyed it with
he's got
his
writers trying to tell him the same
reduced
thing.
all
He's
the
like,
all this money that's being thrown
I
out
guess
the
I'll
window.
try and save
He
it, but I
caused
can't pronounce
inflation.
those names.
As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill of
Yeah,
the black
right.
people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people.
Oh, my
They're
Black
taking
jobs,
black
so
jobs,
CIA.
and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated
That's
the
not
economy.
true.
That's why there was no inflation.
That was
At the
COVID.
time, there were no jobs.
He was president during COVID, though,
jobs.
Prior to that, it was the highest GDP that we've had. That's just a fact. Yeah, of course it did. Because the whole world shut down.
I made sure that the
How long were we locked down? 6 months or something crazy?
to get written off for healthcare. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing it, we put more police on the street and that administration
Come on,
has.
Joe.
He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity.
Dang, I was way low on the 10.
Shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Malfeasance.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history.
What you mean?
Communities across
You didn't
the
get
country
your-
are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat,
Huh?
No, my,
intensified
what is that,
wildfires,
horse
stronger
race, what they call
hurricanes,
this?
and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are there. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's
Except
done
our
for the
sheriff.
black population is,
Well,
including the fact that for 10 years
almost
he
He's a leftist. He's a Marxist.
But Biden can also say almost every police
and
department
he
is
called it
not
to him,
supporting.
and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal
Yeah,
justice
national.
reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the
That's
opportunities
your
are
50 billion to black
Tim,
colleges.
as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever, they're saying ever, I read this morning, where ever, the best numbers, he's lost much of the black population because he's
That's
done a
true,
horrible
like
job with
31%.
black people.
31%. I checked the polls this
When
morning.
you see these
Oh, yeah.
Rasmussen
said that he's lost 31%.
They're gonna take the job,
Which one
and it's
is it?
already started, and you haven't seen anything yet, it's a disaster.
That's a.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you
Are you
take
for
any
real?
action as president to slow the climate crisis?
I know, I want to take this off live.
Immaculate
Why is
clean
that? I don't wanna watch
and I
this
want
stuff.
absolutely clean air, and we had it.
The leader of our country is great.
This is crazy.
And we were using.
Says the guy that watches Flint City Council on a weekly.
I try not to, I have to.
Yeah. Best environmental numbers ever. And we had top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's going.
When I was working at TV6 up north, the weather guy, the main weather guy, has been there for like 50 years.
Climate change legislation in
His favorite thing to do was to laugh in the face of his interns when they ever brought up climate change. That's his favorite thing to do. And then he would sit back and look at, you see this weather pattern here, you see this solar pattern here, and literally just marching through the numbers one by one. And they're like, but my professor said climate change. He's like, no,
We said, yeah, climate change when I was a kid.
That's what the climate does. It changes. And if they stop screwing with the...
I know, chemtrails are a conspiracy theory.
You know, I like us worrying about something together that we can change. You know, bring us all together to a common end. Maybe this common end has to be climate change. We all
The Paris
come
Accord is
together.
gonna cost us $1 trillion.
I'm not saying
Who's
it's
gotta be
aliens.
against?
I'm not saying it's aliens,
It
but
was
it's
a rip-off of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a
That's true.
disaster.
That actually is
But
true.
everything that he said
The
just
United
now,
States is the only one holding up
Paris
the climate
Accord.
accords, the Paris
I'm the one
accords.
that got the insulin
China,
down for the
Southeast
seniors.
Asia in
I
general.
took care of the
Listen to
seniors.
this one
What
about
he's
it.
doing is destroying all of our medical programs
Yeah.
because the migrants
Do you
coming
agree
in,
with a lot of
they want
Chinese
everybody.
I think May 35th, nothing happened.
And I want to take care of people. We're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and everything. We're taking over our social security. He is destroying social security, Medicare, and
You need
Medicaid.
something stronger than a cigar right now.
Wait, which Holocaust? Yeah, the one in Southeast Asia, so several countries there, the one in South America.
Members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get it under control. One of the largest
The
polluters.
thing is, what's blowing my mind, still to this day, it's all the Jews, the only Jews. It wasn't gays, blacks, anybody else.
It was just a big process. We still have Cold War for thousands of young people.
It was, that's the hot button issue, but no,
I've always
killed
been
everybody.
We're going to see a big change. That otherwise would cause pollution. But guaranteed that the claims that he is the biggest hard-up period.
Oh, really?
Concerned about pollution and about climate. I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for one voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company,
No, other
cannot
countries
have to
do
pay
it with 35
And by the
cents.
way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solid?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck.
I think the government should not tax the people.
The idea that they're I'm proposing that everybody
Before 1919, they were paying for road maintenance.
So no one after we're not raising the cost of Social Security for anybody. Everybody $400,000 after that began to make the law, began to pay their fair share.
before the Fed began to
From 1% down to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, that one enough will keep us solvent. The biggest thing we'll do is defeat this man because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He's planning to cut Social Security. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's if you look at the
Work for the Romans for a couple
public caucus that he's built, his stores, is in fact want to cut it as well.
I tell you what,
The idea
if I can go back to phone on desk,
to protect our
He
seniors.
says idea a lot.
We put, by the way, the American public has
you know why?
better healthcare
Today's
coverage today
cell
than
phones
ever
go
before.
prevalent, because you don't need a warrant to have a cell phone.
We're in a circumstance where 400,000 people
And then the person can buy healthcare.
would not have insurance.
A lot of people started on that crap. A lot of
Nothing
people
allows them
don't.
to have that insurance is the fact that they in fact are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about
Just like thank you for your tax.
black communities have raised the amount of money for coverage at $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward the tuition. It's just a
My question is, where's the all this money
So
being
I've
gone
dealt
away?
with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen him. I can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And
Am
we
I
mentioned the
allowed?
laptop,
Are
we
you?
mentioned Russia, Ukraine.
Oh, is that wax?
Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up, it's a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security, they're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid, they're putting them in our hospitals, they're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country
Biden
before.
is putting the illegal
The
aliens
idea
from
that
the border
veterans are going to be
into
taken care of, I
the
told you before.
position
By the way,
that
when I
farm
said something,
Americans.
he said.
No, he's put him into, they've flown in 340,000
That
people
got fired.
and
because
told
he's
Congress that they don't
knowledge.
get to know.
But that's what he said.
That's what
He
he's
was
talking
standing with Trump.
How many
When he
others
said
in
that.
Africa?
Number one.
No.
Number two.
Quite a few,
The
actually.
idea is going to be in a situation where all these.
There's a lot of troops
talks
across
about
the border.
illegal aliens.
People that come across the border are getting Social Security and
The
Medicaid.
reason why we have the fastest growing economy.
Their money comes out,
why we have the most successful
they're not putting it back in.
True
better
story.
than any other nation.
So illegal aliens are coming into the country, getting PO boxes, applying for Social Security, and getting accepted.
They all said that if
Yeah, he's giving it to them.
we're like to have a recession.
They're coming into America, they're applying for Social Security and getting it because it goes to his desk and he stamps it
They
okay.
have the worst
No.
president in history.
The administration is also.
He's
Thank you so much.
instructed
Let's turn to the
Social
cost of
Security
child care,
Administration
which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both
approve
you and President
any
Biden
Trying to watch.
have tried to address this issue.
We argue about
But the
this
average
later.
cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child.
We only
for
have
many
20 minutes
families. The cost of child care for
Put a
two
pin in
children
it.
is more
One
than their
circle.
rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
And just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
Answer the question, Mr.
He doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire one Joe because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI during the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You pay for a store, but they were no good. I
Answer the
hated these
question.
people. I didn't put him there. They call me there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
I think he's
Did
trying to
you
answer
fire
a question from
Did you
before.
fire
Let's
anybody
see him
that's
try
on
to
the
push it
border
forward.
that's allowed us that the worst
And
border
Trump's
in the
like,
history of the
no,
world? Did
wait a
anybody
second.
get fired for allowing 18 million people, many
There's
from
your people
prisons,
that argue.
many from mental institutions. Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
Move on, Trump.
Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said it about me because I said it.
Not answering
He's the
questions,
worst
Mr.
president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country.
know what, Jerry?
Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If
man,
he
you know, Mark Twain
wins
said,
this election,
"The voting
our
matters,
country doesn't
voting
have a
matters."
chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden.
You're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. You're the finest military in the history of the world. The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't know the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he isn't doing anything to deal with child care. He did virtually nothing in child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men, or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable? Could you elaborate on that?
Just so you understand, we have Poland, we have other things that they rate him the worst. Because what he's done is so bad.
He's not
And they rate
again.
me, I'll show you, I will show you.
Another
And they rate me one of the best, okay?
Oh, it's just,
And
he's not
if
getting
I'm
off
given
it.
another
not even
4 years,
listening.
I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever.
Come on.
See, now that's a smile you should have earlier.
Cut taxes
That's
like
a
us.
smile you should
He's
have
the only one
earlier.
that wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden.
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I never raised a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But his tariff is 10% tax. Everything coming to the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American
Did raise taxes by raising
$2,500 a
inflation.
year more, because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he is not racist.
Taxes are based on a percentage.
He somehow helped the middle class. Middle class has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We're at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans. The both of you have made a top
I
priority
said it
first
earlier,
term,
like,
the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of
Nice had the job.
deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the
Finish
largest
up.
deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out on tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money.
Answer the
It's
fucking
tremendous.
question.
Ever saved our steel industries and
He's answered the
more to
question.
come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border were, it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, we talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen. And numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden.
Fentanyl and the byproduct fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt them politically. He never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in other countries in Asia in terms of precursors.
I don't get it.
It's not Asia, it's coming out of Afghanistan.
When he was talking about metal bands in the 80s, kind of
That's what
over
we have to
fans.
do. We need
Remember
those
that thing?
machines.
That's what reminds
Thank
me.
you, President Biden. President Trump, and again,
That's because this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico.
Oh, no,
He ended catch and release. I bet catch and
Now,
release
Bill
in
Hicks,
Mexico, not catch and
80s,
release here.
90s, like,
We had so many things that we had
He was,
done, hard negotiations with
he was,
Mexico, I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage,
Direct
it was
Connect
$6
Highway.
billion
If you ever,
for every time
worked
it says a hostage. Now we have a hostage, the Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy.
90% of
He's
fentanyl
over
comes
there
from
because
Afghanistan.
Putin is
It's
laughing at this guy, probably asking for millions of dollars for. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office, before I take office, I said, by literally, as soon as I win
This
the
is what I
election,
did.
I will have that reporter out. He should have
Drug
him out a long
rehabilitation
time
is
ago.
what I did.
But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases
He's
where
not
we paid $6
answering the
million
freaking
for 5
question.
people. I got 58 people out and I paid essentially nothing.
More concerned about
Thank you,
defending
President Trump.
who's the worst
Let's turn to
president than he is
concerns that
answering
voters
the God bless
have
him
about each
question.
of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
First of all,
Nancy Reagan was a great president.
Because I've been the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate. And now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look what I've done.
He's never made more than
a horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 80,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 3% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a
Answer the
product.
question.
So I went
It's
to
a
South
Trans-Pacific
Korea.
Partnership.
I convinced Samsung to invest billions of of dollars.
I was
in the
questioning
United States.
was under the name instead of Vice
Guess what?
President Trump.
Those
You know that?
fabs, they call them, that to deliver these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. They don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world of getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he calls up to, from Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We've been in public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Through the first 5 questions, he couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit the ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit the ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was the White House doctor, and then I took another one, a similar one, and one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace them.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 225 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, he said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Just take a look at what he says he is. Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest one. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Oh, shit. Are they really talking about golf handicaps?
This is derailing.
And they got derailed on their golf handicaps?
Oh, this is
Which
amazing.
specific concern that voters have about you?
Listen to him laugh
Will you
next
pledge
door.
tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent. Because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these for Putin, they don't respect him, they don't fear him, they have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with a job I've done, what they've done. Because we're a powerful nation. We're a wonderful place. Because of the people, not me, it's because of the American people. They're capable of anything. They step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
That was the question.
Just to finish what he said, if I might.
No!
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started, ever, with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. They're so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old. All because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would never attack.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week. Or we'll have another one of these in a week.
Proven fact.
I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that.
What percent?
Running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw
Doesn't matter what percentage or 10%.
He's destroying our country.
Oh.
I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because
They
it's
took
the only way he thinks
they
he
took
can win. But
the records
unfortunately,
to the
it's giving up
cemetery.
on numbers.
This person voted. This person
Because the
voted.
people understand.
They have the-
There's more than one
Let's see what your
Karen
numbers
Clark.
are.
What's that?
There's more than one Karen Clark or Jennifer Smith.
First time.
I can go to any grave and say this guy voted and show him on the road.
Hey, look it up. There's her obituary.
Said any of your clients have
So they can match addresses.
state or
Oh, yeah. It's all proven. 25,000.
this lie.
How many
It's the first year my mom ever voted. She's dead.
No. There's no evidence of that.
First time ever.
And I tell you what, I doubt you'll accept it because
And you voted
the
Democrat.
idea of convincing anybody to accept it.
Yeah.
The kids still lost.
She
It's
knew
not
better.
even lost last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
in 10 minutes or so, Roby, you'll join us for analysis of tonight's key moments.
Our team of political experts will break down how this night could shake up the presidential race over the next 5 months. Back to
Oh, so it's over? And this is the recap?
No, we get a few more.
There's still.
Candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And I'm probably elected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after where he handled the pandemic. And he found himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes in the United States of America. What I did, well, for example, he wants to get away with the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for instance instead of $400.
It was already there, you dumb ass. Fuck yeah! Trump had it all. Trump had all that stuff down.
Reduced the federal debt.
And the day he took office, he wiped it out, and then he brought it back, and now he's trying to So Trump took credit for it? Yeah, because he did it.
All along,
Trump talked about dropping the drug prices. Oh, yes, he did. And when Biden took office his first day, where did you hear this? He raised taxes. Just what happened. Just today. So what legislation? You get some legislation that did it? Yes. Yeah, it didn't slow him down to really cheap. Was it like a COVID law or something for all drugs? No, it was way before.
Thank you, President Biden.
No, it's over $700 before that.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to vote on. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you. Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was an incredible choice for our soldiers. For our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves.
So let me know what Biden's doing.
That's why I had the highest approval rating in the history.
He's barely holding on.
Let me know what Biden's doing.
We're a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
So we've been watching the wrap-up there of the debate. Former President Trump making his closing statement, wrapping up the first presidential debate hosted by CNN. Mr. Trump facing off against President Biden.
Paul, have you seen CNN's numbers lately?
I don't.
Oh, they are hilarious. They're like at 80,000.
Everybody's watching them.
No. They're at an 80,000 average right now.
Is that bad? 80,000 out of millions?
0.08 share.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So, what do you say? Never mind. I'm saying goodbye. What do you guys think? Go ahead in the comments. Tell me whether you liked it. What? Do you win a debate? Do you win a debate? Who won? Who kept score? You didn't keep score. I thought you were keeping. What's the chalk?